This is the Rob Brown Show.
The fan of states.
Well, howdy, y'all. Welcome in another rousing rendition of the Rob Brown Show. Is on your radio. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the fan upstate. What's happening, y'all? Happy Thursday. We are on the 1 week countdown to the National Football League draft, just 7 days away. I am Rob Brown, the pleasure exclusively mine. Directly on the other side of the metaphorical glass, my co-host, my partner in crime, the executive producer, the alpha and the omega of the fan upstate, hashtag dad kicks, Colonel Grudge, the sultan of swag, the professor of perfection, the wizard of wave, the content cash cow himself, the great one Lonzo here as well. What up, Zoe?
I choose to be surly today.
I see that.
No, I don't choose to be. Others have chosen it for me by moving stuff and not moving it back, which
You're
is
in
just
control of your own happiness.
yeah. Well, yeah. If I were in control of some more things, there would be major changes.
Are you Dylan Brooksing the LeBron James that is everybody else right now? Just the stare down.
Oh, he said some stuff too.
Oh yeah, he did. They asked Dylan Brooks about his show up of Braun last night. And by the way, Dylan Brooks has just become a class A antagonist over the last couple of months. They asked him in front of his locker room in his Seth Rollins glasses he was wearing last night, can you tell me about your stare down of Braun? And his response was, he's old, I don't care. Quote, end quote. And now all of a sudden, why do I feel like Grizz Lakers game 3 in Memphis is going to be incredible to watch?
See, we're about to find out. There was a time when you didn't call LeBron out. There was a time when you didn't say stuff like this about LeBron. As Booker T would say, tell me you didn't just say that.
Keep LeBron's name out your mouth.
We're going to find out if LeBron is indeed as old as he is being, as he looked yesterday, because he looked old. If he's that old, we're about to find out. Or does LeBron still have a little something left in him after he basically just got called out?
The Lake Show, when Brooks was guarding LeBron last night, was 4 for 17 from the floor. That's not great. That's bad, actually. That's actually a bad.
I have a theory. I have a theory about this. So the game before, Reeves and I can't remember the other guy's name. Came out and had a killer game. And my theory is LeBron and AD decided, well, they were going to take over this game, and then found out that they couldn't. Because LeBron came out shooting, wasn't facilitating, was doing things other than what he normally would do. And they can't win that way. I'm not sure they could win with those two, playing through those two, which they should be able to, maybe like 5 years ago, but I don't think they can win playing through those two. They got to play through their youth, and they're not going to do it because of ego, I think.
Back in game number 1, Anthony Davis had himself a decent night. 22 points, 10 of 17 from the floor, and 12 boards to go with 3 assists and 7 blocks in that game. The Lakers won that one by 16 going away. Last night, game 2, just a little bit different. AD got blocked 3 times, including one in a moment that had Twitter absolutely alight when Conchar got up, who goes about 6.5 inches shorter than AD, got up and just threw a block party, turned into prime Dikembe Mutombo on AD, and they just couldn't get it going. Anthony had 13 last night. Now let's point this out, that yes, Braun is 38 years old, all right? As Lonzo's whiteboard behind him, you can see on the stream, says, Father Time caught LeBron. But let's not pretend like my dude didn't have 28 points, 12 boards, and 3 assists last night.
Yeah. I think the last thing that you just said is the most important part. Only 3 assists.
Correct, but that's on the Lakers having a bleak poor shooting night. LeBron was putting guys in position to score, and guys just weren't finishing.
You talked about how many he made. How many did he miss?
Let's see. The Lakers as a team last night.
I'm talking about LeBron. How many did LeBron miss?
LeBron was 12 of 23 from the floor. So he shot, what's 12 of 23? 53% from the floor?
No, it's less than that.
12 of 23? 12 of 24 would be 50%. He shot 12 of 23.
Maybe it's like 50.5 or so. Anyway.
Whatever it is.
So
now,
he barely made, or he made a little over half a shot.
Correct. And the Lakers as a team shot 41%. 50% from the floor is a pretty damn good shooting night. If you go 50% from the floor consistently, you're one of the best scorers in the league.
He looks slow and old. And Anthony Davis looked like, it's like, this guy's supposed to be one of the best players in the league. He did not look like it.
The only guys who had a better shooting percentage night last night than LeBron for the Lakers were Hachimura, who was 7 of 12.
That's the name I couldn't remember, Hachimura.
And Beasley was 2 for 4. Outside of that, everybody else was 50% or worse.
How many shots did Reeves get?
Let me look. Here's the rundown. Reeves went 5 of 12.
Okay.
So 45-ish.
He was the man like a couple of days before.
Yep. 12 points. You got 12 out of him, 28 out of LeBron, 13 out of Davis, and Hachimura put 20 off the bench.
And of course, Memphis was at full strength, right?
No, Ja was not there.
Oh, so like their best player was not there?
Yeah,
okay.
but Zoe, he was there in game 1, and the Lakers ran him off the floor. Right.
Well,
so let's not pretend Ja Morant is the only difference.
No, I agree. But he got hurt in game 1.
He did, but it was what? I mean, when did he get hurt in that game? Third quarter? I mean, he was out there the majority of the game, and the Lakers tried. Let's be real. The Lakers were beating Memphis with or without Ja in game 1. The Grizz had a better showing without Ja than with him. Now, I am not by any means saying Ja Morant's overrated or whatever. Ja Morant's one of the best players in the league. I love that guy. But the Grizz ain't a bad team. They're going to need the Lakers to keep shooting poorly. The Lakers went 41.2% from the floor. What killed the Lakers was behind the arc, where they went 7 of 26, including 1 of 8 from deep for LeBron. That's what killed him. LeBron could not connect on a 3 to save his life.
Also struggled at the free throw line. There was just a lot of things. There really was. I still think maybe the Lakers win the series, but they did not look good.
Lakers didn't get to the free throw line as much as I thought they would have. They were 16 of, actually both teams were 16 of 21 from the stripe. So the free throw shooting was even. The Grizz shot a little bit better from deep. They were 11 of 36 for 30.6%. And the Grizz shot better from the floor. Not by much. The Lakers 35 of 85. The Grizz 38 of 89 for just a tick shy of a 43% field goal percentage from the floor. So it really wasn't awful. It was just LeBron and the Lake Show couldn't connect deep. And we're relying on that because once AD got blocked for the second or third time in that game, en route to a 4 of 14 from the floor showing, they started trying to play outside in, which only works if you're shooting well from the outside, and they just weren't.
All right, I don't mean this as cutting because it may sound that way. Since you don't have a team in the playoffs, Are you rooting for any certain team to win the whole
Sacramento.
thing? I was going to say, I'm also rooting for Sacramento.
I will almost always go for the basement dwellers. I will almost always go with a team that has not been in the playoffs for 15 years and not only showed up, but is 2-0 in the process and going back to Golden State, which, by the way, coming up here in a minute, I am Team Sacramento. I think they play hard basketball. I think they play fun basketball. I think they play old school, physical on the inside with Sabonis. I got two things from that series we're going to talk about. Number one is Kevon Looney, the big man for the Dubs, was asked, because there's a lot of complaints going on right now about Sabonis and playing very physically, right? The Dubs, as one of their excuses for Draymond acting like a punk again, was, Sabonis plays overly physical. He uses the basketball as a weapon. He plays with his elbows out, et cetera, et cetera. They asked Kevon Looney about that, and Looney looked into the camera and went, "That's big man basketball. That's what we do. That's how you play down there. If you don't like it, don't come down there." We'll talk about that in a little while because I love that out of that guy. And number two, the Dubs have banned cowbells from coming into the Chase Center because their president of basketball operations was at the Kings-Warriors game 2 in Sacktown, and there was a fan behind him with a cowbell who was just ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling in the guy's ear for an entire period. Now, the president of basketball operations did not do what I like to think I would have done, which is grab the cowbell and launch it about 80 feet on the other side of the floor.
Which could have hurt somebody because cowbells they're not, lightly built.
Stop bringing it into my ear. All right? Just stop. The guy would have gotten some words from me. He just sat there and took it and then went back to Golden State and banned them from home games for the Warriors. So the Kings can't bring their cowbells anymore. Love to see that.
So we're not having cowbells.
Yes.
So here's what I would do as Sacramento. I would call up Christopher Walken. I would have him on the sidelines because you may ban cowbells, but you're not going to stop Christopher Walken. He brings out Will Ferrell.
The game's in Golden State.
Doesn't matter. You bring him in as a special coach
to hype up the 30 Kings fans.
No, just to annoy the other team.
I got a fever.
Exactly.
The only prescription is more cowbell.
And also, if you are the president of basketball operations for the Golden State Warriors, you have just doomed yourself when you go back there. Don't go back to Sacramento because everybody's going to have cowbells and you are going to lose some of your hearing.
I just want to say that cowbells should be banned from all sporting events, There are two places where I accept cowbells. I accept cowbells in tracks by the Blue Oyster Cult, and I accept cowbells in cow pastures where there are cows.
All right.
That's the only two places there should be cowbells.
First of all, if you've ever played a cowbell on stage, which I have done, you can never be against cowbells again because cowbells are awesome. Just like you can't play a cowbell and be still.
Get rid of the damn cowbells.
You got to put your whole body into playing that cowbell.
Get rid of the cowbells. They're garbage and I hate them. All right? They're garbage and I hate them. They're obnoxious. They're annoying. Get rid of cowbells. They should not be anywhere around anything that's not a cow or Will Ferrell.
All right.
That's the list.
So I'm just curious if anybody that's in the band that Rob is in is listening, because sometimes you guys
we don't have a cowbell.
This is the time to put the cowbell in.
No.
Just because it would be funny.
No, we're good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, busy show for you lined up today, as it always is on a Thursday. Coming up here in about 25 minutes, we will be joined by Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast. We are 1 week away from the National Football League draft. We'll get some thoughts from Rashad on where the Panthers are right now. Then at 11:20, it's Thursday, and you know what that means. Fight Club! with the great one Lonzo is coming up. The only show in town that talks boxing, MMA, and professional wrestling, and there has been no shortage of all three. Do we have an update on the potential for John Jones via Stipe Miocic? Yes, we do. Do we have a boxing story that Lonzo will ignore because it doesn't have a Paul brother involved? Yes, we do. And no shortage of wrestling, all coming up at 11:20. Stick around. We have got a lot to talk about, a lot to get to. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. I'm Rob. He's the great one. You're listening to the Fan Upstate.
Gables.
All right, guys, got a live read. Stay right here. We will be right back.
Then I discovered Babbel.
Babbel's lessons are fun. They only take like 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks, presto, you're starting to speak another
So,
language.
seriously considering bringing the cowbell in tomorrow. I mean, it's Friday. It's Cowbell Friday. Why not? Why not? I mean, I'm curious what genre of music uses the cowbell most. I'm going to type that into Google because,
Babbel, évidemment. Go to babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com. Babbel.com.
So apparently Latin music is the top genre for cowbell sound. According to the internet, it makes it the standard for the overall implementation of cowbell style and technique. So there's a cowbell style. I've got a real cowbell, Steven. I wasn't joking about playing cowbell on stage. I actually have. Because my wife didn't want me to. And, one of the guys wrote a song in the band that was kind of a little country leaning. So I played the cowbell. Was that a festival? I can't remember what festival. I think I only did it once. But you only needed to do it once. Ooh, there's even a master class in how to play the cowbell. And here's one, the 13 greatest uses of cowbell in rock and metal. So the great Latin sound is called the humble cowbell, which is the humble cowbell. Stephen, I don't know where cowbell ranks in the Rob Hates list, but I think you've got to put Latin music in there too, because because cowbell, when you think cowbell, according to the internet, you think Latin music. So if you hate the cowbell, then you hate the music that the cowbell is used in the most.
I want to love anything as much as Lonzo loves saying I hate things that I don't hate.
It's not, I didn't bring up the list. They did. Oh, here's one, a tribute to the cowbell. I'm definitely going to go to the 13 greatest uses of cowbell in rock metal. Except they have cookie things, so I guess I'm not. Did you see what I sent you on Twitter?
Nope. The South Carolina thing?
I believe so. Oh, wait.
Let me be abundantly clear. Lonzo, on the sound roster, down towards the bottom, is the clip that started this from the Kings-Warriors game. I don't know what clip number it is because I forgot to upload my roster to my prep sheet. But you'll see it. You can't miss it. Let me play this audio for you. This is from Game 2 of the Kings-Warriors game. Standing right there, about, 20 rows up from the floor. About 20 rows up from the floor is the, I think, vice president of basketball operations for the Golden State Warriors. And behind him is it was their general manager. General manager of the Golden State Warriors. Warriors?
Warriors come out to play.
General manager Bob Myers had a Sacramento Kings fan behind him. Now, the Kings, like many other fans, have taken to the cowbells. Why? Because it allows you to create a lot of noise without having to do the work of making noise. See, if you're like me, you take a certain pleasure in being able to utilize your voice to add to the cacophony of sounds that might distract a team trying to set up and run an offense. Cowbells allow you to do that without having to do the work. So Bob Myers, around the third quarter, is standing there with this guy behind him.
Yeah, I don't see it.
Okay. Well, I'll go grab it during the break.
Okay, I do. I really want to hear the cowbell, but I do not see it on the playlist. So
I've been locked out from my the Google Drive on this computer, so I can't find it. But I'll get there. Actually, let me see. I might be able to get it. It is going to be clip number. Oh, the anticipation's just killing me. My Google Drive's dead. Anyway, I'll find it later. Point is, the cowbell's lazy. And in the clip, there is a guy behind Bob Myers Clanga, 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 clanga. See how annoying that is? Clanga, 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 clanga. It's the worst. It's the worst.
It's not really bothering me. It might be bothering the audience and the boss, but
Good.
if you want to clanger the whole time, we can clanger. I'll throw up a mad beat behind the clanger.
Oh, maybe
We'll be jumping up in this place.
Maybe I didn't finish unloading it.
Which
I'll go.
might be
upload it
the
during
reason
the
why.
break. Yeah, that's why I can't find it.
Yeah.
Point is, ladies and gentlemen, that people are terrible and cowbells are terrible.
So what you said, it's down near the bottom of the list. So what is the very bottom of the list? I'm curious about that. Is it the Vuvuzela? Is it the Clackers? Because it's no worse than the Clackers. Are you okay with the Clackers? I don't know what to call it. I'm calling them Clackers. Are they Clackers? You know what I'm talking about.
Clackers. As a person who works sporting events around the calendar, including one who plays a drum at soccer matches.
Yeah.
As I did last night, the Triumph 3-0 win over Fuego.
Way to go.
Big dub for the boys. Noah Pilato, my guy, got back on the score sheet. Love to see that.
So standard on a lot of drum kits are cowbells. I'm just
Not mine.
Yeah. I just want to point that out. So So when you play drums in a band, there's no cowbell up on that kit? No, none at all. Okay. All right.
No. Now, if you want to include the cowbell into music, I can accept that. Because then it's a percussion instrument that, if you're any good at it, fits into the song.
Music, much like beauty, is in the eye of the beholder. So what I may consider music, you may not, and vice versa.
That's a fact. I've heard our Spotify lists being played next to each other.
I like all your stuff. I can't. I'm just a little more eclectic. What can I say?
So
you just hate anime. Also.
There's a difference between cowbell and music and annoying turd just beating it in somebody else's ear just to be a jerk. Now, if you pick it up after your hockey team scores a goal and you clang it for a minute or two, I'm good with that.
What's the difference between, let's say, the cowbell and the triangle?
We have a triangle at the soccer matches too now.
Yeah,
it's great.
I know that. That's why I'm not trying to trap you or anything.
A triangle in anybody else's ear and rings it for 35 seconds relentlessly.
Not yet.
You ever been to a Mississippi State game? You will leave a much more angry person. I've done it. It's awful. Luke said, Rob is acting like Shooter McGavin. This is golf, people. Go back to your shanties. I am not. I am all about making noise at a sporting event. Clanger, 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 clanger.
I don't know if you knew this, but there are cowbells in this building. There are cowbells in this building. I could very easily just walk into someone's office and grab. I actually saw one. I know who has one in their office.
I'll tell you what, Zoe. I'll tell you what. Go get it, bring it in here, and just stand in the corner and ring it for a whole segment. And let's see how that goes for you.
Well, it was in Mark Ryan's office. I don't think he'd appreciate me touching his stuff.
Go get anybody's cowbell, bring it in here, ring it for an entire segment, and let's see how it goes.
I might bring my actual cowbell tomorrow.
That's fine. I don't care.
And a drumstick, and just sit there and just
it the whole segment. See how that goes.
I'm not showing midriff like Will, though. I'm not doing that. You guys don't deserve that.
Just see what the response is from the bosses when you're banging a cowbell in the corner the whole time.
Dude,
you know what the move is?
They're not listening.
You know what the move is?
What is the move?
You ban it from the studio. No more. No mas. X-nay on the Albel K.
You do understand that you're daring me.
Have at.
Okay. All right.
Have at.
All right. So you think the boss would be on your side?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think.
So what kind of music does the boss play?
It doesn't matter. You are missing the point. You keep going back to music. I am not talking about music. I'm talking about a jerk at a sporting event when I'm trying to enjoy the game and some clown is clang-a-clang-a-clang-a-ing.
La, 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 la.
Again, You're straw manning here. Quit with the damn
Hey,
cowbells.
I'm just a scarecrow.
They're awful. They're awful. And if you bring one to a game, I have questions about you. Can't stand it. You put it in music, that's fine. If I show up to a Kings game and there's a band playing live music during the timeouts with a cowbell, great. That's an appropriate time and place. But just like everything else, there's an appropriate time and place. The time at a sporting event, the place in my freaking ear hole, they're both wrong.
You remember like a half hour ago when I said I was going to choose to be surly? I didn't, but someone else did because they're angry about the cowbell.
Because you guys are defending something terrible. All right. Let me get to
Why are we defending something terrible? I think fans should be able to celebrate.
I do too. Celebrate away. You know, I am usually the lead in a celebration. The bits, as you heard Lordo, the head coach of the Swamp Rabbits, say on Tuesday, now do the yes chant because of me. The soccer team has a full ass drum line because of me. Not because of me. They have one anyway, but I am in it.
Come on.
I am one of them now. I am always team celebrate, but that's not celebration. That's just being aggravated.
We also have some guys that are really that listen who are also doing the drumline thing. I think one of them needs to bring a cowbell.
No,
I think they do.
That's enough cowbell. I've had enough. I've had enough.
I've waited all this time for him to say he's had enough cowbell.
I've had enough. We have got a lot of stuff coming up. Rashad Beard joins us in the next segment of the radio broadcast. Fight Club with Lonzo is at 11:20. I'm just going to ring a cowbell during that whole segment.
Yeah, I might be canceled. It could happen over cowbell. But, if I'm going to go down,
it's going to do it.
I'm going down with cowbell.
Go down clanging. So that's coming up at 11:20. Boxing, MMA, and professional wrestling shall be discussed. We have got to talk NHL. The Carolina Hurricanes seem to have gotten over the hump. They are up 2-0 in round one in the Eastern Conference playoffs for the Stanley Cup. The Lake Show, as we mentioned earlier, go down to the Grizzlies last night after a terrible performance against Dylan Brooks and not Ja Morant. We'll talk about that. And South Carolina has picked up yet another recruit. The top four recruits in the state are all Gamecocks. 5 of the top 7 recruits out of the state are all Gamecocks. We'll talk about that, what that means for South Carolina coming up later on in the show. But before we get into any of that, let's take a break. And when we come back, Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast is going to join us on the show. We'll talk about what the Silver and Blue need to do next Thursday to walk out of the draft with the grade of A. That'll be next on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. We're getting Rashad set up, guys. We'll be right back.
I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke.
What's up, Rashad? How you doing, big dog?
What's going on, fellas?
Not much, brother. How you been? How was your trip?
It was great. Great. Much needed.
Heard that. Where were you? Went back up to Canada?
Oh, give me a second. No. I went to Hawaii.
Oh,
Which is probably better than Canada. I'm
Yeah.
guessing. Yeah.
Much better than Canada. No disrespect to the Canadians.
By the way, that shirt is awesome. I like
Yes,
that shirt.
shout out to the Roaring Riot. It's their shirt for 2022, 2023.
like it.
Yeah. I don't think you'll be able to find this one either, Rob. I'm just throwing that out.
He's already in the mood, man. Because apparently he hates cowbell and anyone who plays a cowbell. So
not what I said, but keep on keeping on, Lonzo.
I push buttons, Rob. That's what I do.
Literally and figuratively. I need a Carolina Hurricanes sweater. That's what I need next. I think that's going to be the next acquisition.
Still don't understand why they call it a sweater, because they don't look like a sweater. I've worn real sweaters before and never will ever again in my entire life. But yeah, they're not really sweaters. Sweaters mean you're in a cold place. I don't want to be in cold places.
All right, let's talk football. It is Thursday, and on Thursday, we talk Panther football with Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast. You can find them on Twitter at Panther Nation PC. More importantly, find them on YouTube by searching and subscribing to the Panther Nation podcast. If you are a fan of the Carolina Panthers, Rashad and Dave are your must-watch YouTube channel. Missed him last week. He makes his triumphant return. Shad, what's up, big dog?
What's going on? Good to be back. Let's get it. It's a lot to talk about.
Lot to talk about. And obviously, Shad, I've been talking with Zoe about this. He was all jacked up when the Panthers went from 9-1, thinking CJ Stroud was the guy, but Bryce Young's Vegas odds are now minus 1,200 to be the guy. Fitterer and Oppressor earlier this week went repeatedly on the mic to say we're not worried about his size. He's not our pick. We're not saying he's the pick, but had a lot to say defending why he wouldn't be a bad one. There's one of two options here, which is either the Panthers are trading back to Houston at 2 to recoup some stuff and still take CJ, or they're taking Bryce, and my money is on Bryce Young. What do you think?
Yeah, I think all signs are pointing to Bryce Young being the guy. And listen, I get it. There's some concerns with the size, and this is coming from a CJ Stroud guy. I've been a CJ Stroud guy for a long, long time, but I flipped. I'm not necessarily saying I flipped, but I'm okay with Bryce Young. I'm okay with Bryce Young being the guy. Listen, from a Carolina, we talk about size, right? Carolina Panthers fans, we have too many examples of undersized guys doing their thing. We have one Hall of Famer in Sam Mills, right? Who's too small to play middle linebacker, right? We have the great Steve Smith, who was too small to play wide receiver. And so I'm okay with it, man. Like, listen, I trust these guys. I trust what Tepper has brought in to make the decision. And if that's the guy they want, if Young's the guy they want to go with, I'm okay with it. This guy, I listened to his pivot interview, and he's just cerebral, bro. Like he's smart. He understands how to play the game and compensate for his size. So I'm not worried about it. The guy can get it done. And I look at the film. I'm convinced. I'm good with it. I'm good with Bryce Young being the guy. If that's what they decide, I'm okay. And Panthers should be okay too.
So that's been the discussion, is that Bryce Young is just a cerebral assassin. He's just the dude who gets it. We heard Nick Saban, before he said anything else about Bryce at Pro Day, say the dude gets it. He's a smart guy. He understands the game. He's a student of the game more than anybody else, and that's why he ends up being the dude. Is that enough to quell concern about a guy that goes 5'7", 190 trying to play against 3 tenors in the NFL.
Yeah, I think you got to give him a couple more inches than 5'7", man. He's about 5'10", okay?
5'10" in the quarter. He said 5'7".
man.
I'm like, I know I talk
Come
about
on,
him
man.
being short, but he ain't that short.
Give my man some credit. He's already short. Don't take the inches from him. But no, I think he's listen, he makes it up. He's smart. He's been playing at 5'10". He's been short his entire life, right? He's been playing that way since high school. In college, he won a Heisman Trophy being 5'10". He knows how to play being 5'10". And I think that, listen, I don't want to sit up here and give the Buzz S2 scores and all that, because I never heard of S2 before this year. So I'm not going to jump on the S2 train and say, oh, he's so smart and he's going to, but the film, it's the film. Go back to the film. The guy can get it done. He can get it. I'm okay with Bryce Young, but he's smart. He knows how to play the game. And when you're able to, it really frustrates me, because when we talk about potential, right? We always go to the big athletic guys. We talk about ceiling. You always go to the big arm. You always go to the big 6'5" guy that can run. But what about the guys that are smart? What about the guys that can play the game and dissect the game and know how to take advantage of coverages and they can process things quickly? Nobody wants to account for that in their evaluations when it comes to ceiling and it comes to potential. And I think with Bryce Young, that's what we have to do. And I'm okay with it. I think he's good enough. He knows how to play the game. He's smart enough, and I'm okay with it. And Panther Nation, again, you should be okay with it too.
Lonzo, you should be okay with it.
I'm not, and I'm hanging back. Rashad got turned. That's okay. It's all right. It's all right. It's okay. I'm sticking with CJ. I put a lunch on the line because I believe they're going with CJ. I don't care about all the signs. I think it's all a smokescreen. And come next Thursday when we are live from Twin Peaks, Rob is going to realize that he got swerved, and he's going to owe me a lunch. We're going somewhere expensive because, the guys on that side of the glass, they make more money.
Yeah.
So, so we're going somewhere expensive when CJ Stroud is the quarterback.
All right, let's kick it down the line just a little bit, and let's look at that number 2 pick, number 39. We got a bunch of people in the chat. Luke is asking about it. Hudson is asking about it over on the stream chat. Sitting at number 39, and there's options on the table. Now, I mentioned a few times that I am all in for moving up to get Jackson Smith and Jigba out of Ohio State if CJ Stroud's the guy. If he's not, there's a few other wide receivers that are there on the board. But you brought in DJ Chark, you brought in Adam Thielen, you've got TMJ, you've got Shi Smith, who I feel like one or both of those guys could be breakout players this year. I am less and less convinced, Rashad, that wide receiver is the pick there. But honestly, as I look down the roster top to bottom, there's not really a position that jumps out as this is the one we have to fix. Does that put Carolina at number 39 in a best available mentality?
Yeah, I think that's always going to be the case. I think they definitely want to go BPA. And if there's multiple options, and if you've been following Carolina Panthers for any time under Scott Fitterer, you would know that man loves to trade back. They love to recoup day 2 picks. So I could see a situation where if there's multiple guys that they like there, and there's maybe a wide receiver that they see that's going to fall a little bit later, they may trade back to get a guy and just kind of let the draft come to them. So I would keep an eye on a trade back at 39. But to go back to your point about the wide receivers, I most certainly think that if there's a wide receiver they like a Josh Downs or something like that, a Hyatt in that range, I most certainly think they should take a wide receiver. And here's why. I think that Thielen, he's 30-something years old. I know we got him for 3 years, but listen, we cannot – the good teams, they continue to add pieces, right? The Chiefs, they add a wide receiver every single year. And you're like, what? How do they end up with all this talent? Well, that's because they draft one every single year. And I'm on that train as well. You should always add to your room. Chark is on a 1-year deal. TMJ, he's coming on the third years of his deal. And so we need to continue to add to that room to make sure we have some continuity. So I have no problem with them drafting a wide receiver. I think edge rusher is also something they should look at based on our visits, the top 30 visits. Edge rusher, wide receiver are the highest number of guys that we brought in. So edge rusher or wide receiver, I can see them going in the second round.
Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast. Make sure you are subscribed to them on YouTube. They go live like all the time talking Carolina Panthers. We've talked obviously about the switch from the 4-3 to the 3-4 that Evero leans on. It is still hybrid. And this is, I think, what I've been pushing the most, Rashad, is you're still going to see some 4-3. You're going to see some 3-3 dime packages. You're going to see a bunch of different looks. Leans on the 3-4 with a locker room with a current roster that's been built for the 4-3 doesn't mean you're not going to have a bunch of those guys that are able to successfully convert to a 3-4 style. But knowing that you're going to need improved quality outside linebackers, knowing you're going to need a nose tackle to give Derek Brown a spell here and there, because a 3-4 puts a lot of stress on that nose tackle position. You've got to eat up double and triple teams a lot. I got to think you're going to see a heavy front seven draft class.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to, I think the opposite, dude. I think it's going to be a heavy offensive weapon draft. I think there's going to be a lot of wide receiver. Well, not a lot. I think there's going to be a wide receiver taken. I think there's going to be potentially a running back taken. And I think there's going to be potentially a tight end taken if Darnell Washington or Laporta happen to be there. So I think it's going to be, and you heard Fitterer say this, he called it a quote unquote sexy draft, right? This is going to be a lot of picks where they're going to be flashy. Obviously with the quarterback, that's a big one. But I think, outside of that, we signed a lot of guys that will play on the three front. So a lot of the defensive ends and the defensive tackles, we brought in some juice there. And we haven't brought in any interior defensive linemen for visits. So I don't see us going there. I do see us, like I said, potentially drafting outside linebacker. But I think, like you said, there's question marks regarding who's going to play where. I don't know where Brandon Smith is going to play. I don't know where they're going to line up a Frankie Louvu all the time. It's going to be, I don't know where Jeremy Chin is going to play. So I think there's going to be a lot of question marks around where guys are playing. And so we just have to see how they're going to line that up. But I do see them taking some cornerbacks. I think that's the biggest, you look at Evero's system, he really relies on his cornerbacks. And when you have guys like Dante Jackson, JC Horn, they've been hurt recently. They have been on the field consistently. CJ Henderson hasn't lived up to what we thought he could be just yet. So I do think, I think cornerback is going to be a position that we also draft. So I don't know. We'll see. That's my thoughts.
Michael K tweeted out not too long ago, quote, sounds like Reich's Panthers offense will be very RPO focused. Read into that as you will. I love that. And I love that for a couple of reasons. If Bryce is the pick, the ability to run the RPO requires a quarterback who can see the field, understand what's happening, figure out what's happening and why, and then execute. And that's all got to happen in 3/4 of a second, meaning I need a cognizant guy there. The RPO defensively, if executed well, is ridiculously difficult to stop. It is a tremendously difficult offense to stop. If Bryce Young is the guy, do you believe with the running back core in place, with the offensive line and core in place, do you think Frank Reich goes RPO heavy next year? And if so, is that the right call?
Yeah, I think he's proven that he's an RPO guy. And I think if you look at his past, definitely that's what we're going to lean on. And I think it's the right thing to do. You heard Miles Sanders talk yesterday about how he's going to have a heavier workload, especially potentially in the pass game as well. But he also mentioned that they're going to run the football a lot. I don't think you're going to see you saw what we did last year when the other guy, Matt Rule, was fired and it was handed over to Steve Wilks. We ran the football a ton. And I think that's what you're going to see. Even though we're going to draft a quarterback, I still think we're going to lean heavily on that run. Our offensive line is built to run the football. And when you have a guy, like you said, that can process quickly, because again, you have to, in the RPO system, you have to make decisions quick. and you have to make the right decision, right? And you have to be able to say, all right, I'm going to quickly get the ball to this slant or whatever the case may be. And so I think Bryce Young is perfect to fit that system. And I love it. I love the RPO, and I think it's going to be awesome. And I can't wait to see it if we're going to run the ball a lot like they're saying.
Rashad Beard joining us here on the Rob Brown Show with the Fan Upstate. Does so every Thursday morning to talk Panther football. All right, last one, Rashad. I was flipping through a couple of different articles a day or two ago, and I'm a little shocked because I saw 3 or 4 different national writers and talking heads and podcast hosts saying, the Panthers are close. Like, this is a good roster. They got a lot of talent on it. It feels like they're a quarterback away from being a real contender. And there was a lot of buzz around that, which I only found interesting because I think I've been saying that for really middle of last season. You've been saying it, I think, as well. Does it surprise you that national talking heads are just now starting to look at this roster and go, hey, it's pretty well built, it's pretty well coached, and maybe they are just a piece away?
Yeah, I mean, we've been bad for so long. I mean, I can't bash the national media too much because we haven't done well. And I always attributed that to coaching, especially with the guy we had prior to Reich. I don't think he was ready for the NFL. And I've always touted this roster. I think we have the talent. It was just a coaching issue. So now that we have a top 3 coaching staff in the league on paper, right? You've got these guys that have a ton of experience, and now you marry it with the roster that we thought was pretty good, obviously. And then we have the number 1 overall pick. The expectations are high, and so I can't blame the national media for just now catching on. We follow this team every single day, so it's no surprise to us. I gotta be honest, and I cover the Panthers as I'm coming on these shows and I have a podcast, but at the end of the day, I'm a fan. And I haven't been this excited to walk into a season in a long, long time. The excitement that I have. Listen, I just spoke to Bradley Bozeman, starting center, I think 2 days ago. And I told him, I'm like, dude, we haven't had an offensive line like you guys in forever. I've been banging the table for us to fix the offensive line. We've done that. And now all we have to do is take this quarterback and put him behind a talented offensive line. A defense is going to be good enough. So we have some weapons and we have coaching. Everything is set up for us to hit the ground running. Miles Sanders said it yesterday. Listen, the expectations for the rookie quarterback is that, listen, we're not rebuilding. We're going to hit the ground running. And when that message is clear and when you got the players buying into it, it does nothing but excite me. So I'm ready to go. Listen, it's all up, man. We're going to be good. We're going to be a good team next year for sure.
Rashad Beard hosts the Panther Nation podcast on Twitter at Panther Nation PC, but make sure you are subscribed to and following them on YouTube. The next time we talk, Rashad, we will be inside of 8 hours to the Carolina Panthers officially going on the clock. Big dog, appreciate you. We'll see you next week, pal.
Hey, man, appreciate you guys.
You know it. That is Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast. Again, follow them on Twitter at Panther Nation PC and on YouTube. Search and subscribe to the Panther Nation podcast. We are back after this for hour number 2 with the Rob Brown Show. This is the Fan Upstate.
Surgery and not treat yourself with Band-Aids like steroids and pain meds, then really there is no other option. And that's what I love so much about what I get to do.
QC Kinetics offers a variety of restorative natural options to rejuvenate the tissue in your joints and give you your life back.
And they come back a few months later, and it's so affirming to see their quality of life change in such a positive way.
Are you tired of the joint pain that keeps you from living your best life? Call QC Kinetics to learn more about these exciting restorative and regenerative options.
And you've been looking for an answer, something to avoid surgery. I'm just giving you the answer you've been looking for. With QC Kinetics, Kinetics is energy in motion. We want to keep you in motion.
Get your free consultation today with QC Kinetics. Call QC Kinetics 864-448-3772. That's 864-448-3772. 864-448-3772.
It's been years in the making, and now the most epic comic and game store is finally here. Borderlands Comics and Games. Reimagined, bigger and better than before. The state's premier hobby shop has been bringing the best in comics, manga, and gaming to the region for 3 decades. Come see us at our new enormous location at 410 South Pleasantburg. Live the Borderlands experience for yourself. We have gone to a whole new level. Find us on Facebook and Instagram. Proud sponsors of the Upstate Pulse. Borderlands Comics and Games. Read, build, play.
Did you know that over 90% of
Was that your knee?
No, it was my elbow.
Okay.
Anything that's repackaged, redone over and over again? Why settle for the same old product?
Luke wants to know how they can win whiteboard time. What you want? You want your name written on the board? Is that what you're saying? Matthew says, as for the eye test, Young and Stroud are very different players. Both are fantastic, but Young is a leader, whereas Stroud is more of a product of the Ohio State system. He played well in the Natty, but Young showed consistency throughout his time at Alabama. Now that we have our tight end situation straight, we can move on to outside linebacker, defensive lineman, linebacker, and wide receiver.
All right, so I don't understand. So Ohio State has a system, but Alabama does not. This is not me being biased here.
No,
I'm trying to understand.
I actually agree with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, the system is both teams are really good every single year. That's the system. I have said, I would continue to say that I think C.J. Stroud is a better fit and a better quarterback. And yes, I am biased, and I'm not going to act like I'm not. And I will be very disappointed if Bryce Young is a quarterback. Will I stop rooting for the Panthers? No. But if C.J. Stroud goes to Houston and makes them win, and which will be a bigger challenge than going to the Panthers and getting them to win, then I'm going to make sure that I point the mistake out as many times as I can. And I hope if they do go with Bryce Young, I hope they go to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. They're really starting to throw some stuff out about C.J. Stroud, especially with the Manning camp thing.
Yep.
Like at this last moment, which I think is painting the Mannings in such a light that how dare you ghost the Mannings? You can't do that in the NFL. If he indeed did what they said. And there's back and forth on the other side. I think that's
more along the lines of whether you like it or not, the Manning Academy is kind of considered a relatively prestigious invitation to get as a quarterback.
No, I agree.
And if
I agree.
Not that you turn it down, but if you say yes and then you just don't show up.
Isn't it weird that this comes out right now, though?
It is weird.
Yeah.
In fact,
it's not weird. It's planned. But, I mean, to whose advantage?
Right.
You're trying to destroy C.J. Stroud over this? If he indeed did it, how's that destroy him?
Mom said if Rashad gets to go to Hawaii, you might want to transfer over to podcasting and put the S in podcasting as a dollar sign.
I do believe Rashad has another job.
Yes,
I don't know what
does.
it is, but I know
Correct.
He has another job.
Let's talk about this. Let me talk to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me talk about this real quick. Because Lonzo and I had a similar thought, which happens more frequently than you might think. Is it interesting to anybody but us that's, I guess 8 days before the National Football League draft, there is suddenly a flat-out character assassination attempt on C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud, a week ago, was neck and neck with Bryce Young in the odds to go number 1 overall. Then it starts to leak out that Carolina is looking at Bryce Young. The Vegas odds begin to fall. And in fairness, Vegas's job is to know things that we don't, and in some cases probably can't, to set the lines appropriately. But we found out over the past 24 hours that CJ Stroud apparently ghosted the Manning Academy. We find out that on those, you heard Rashad mention the S2 test. The S2 cognitive test, according to Pro Football Network, is not new, but it is really kind of making its way into the public lexicon, or at least the draft lexicon. It is the next step after the Wonderlic test. Now, we've had Wonderlic test jokes going on for years. The S2 test is relatively new to the NFL, but there are players who have taken it. There are retired players, vets, who have taken it. According to Pro Football Talk, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Fields, Drew Brees, amongst others, have all taken it and had elite caliber scores. The 2022 NFL Draft's highest S2 test score, Lonzo, was one Brock Purdy. Highest S2 score went to be Mr. Irrelevant. The thought on the interwebs right now is that that's the reason he was Mr. Irrelevant. Wasn't going to get drafted, but that score was so big that somebody took a flyer on him. The S2 test tests 9 different cognitive skills for quarterbacks: perception speed, search efficiency, tracking capacity, visual learning, instinctive learning, decision complexity, distraction control, impulse control, and improvisation. According to S2cognition.com, they've got a whole website about it where you can go and you can learn all about the test and how it works and what it does, et cetera, et cetera. They do offer I'm not sure if it's for a price or not, because obviously if it's free, then Lonzo and I are doing this.
See, I don't know, because I mean, I will do it, but if let's say your score is like 30 points higher than mine, it makes me look pretty bad. So but I'm willing to do that as long as you don't, brag about how much smarter, you are.
Let's see. It is, Kirk Cousins is a big fan of the S2 test. So, it's good.
Well, I mean, that dude's been fooling people out of money for years.
True.
So, I mean, he's got to be pretty smart to be able to say, yeah, don't look at what I've done. Here's what I can do for you. And people go, yeah, come on over here, Kirk.
Apparently it's a physical test as much as a mental one. Like you actually go out and run drills and whatnot.
All right. So we can't do that.
Yeah.
Well, we could do that, but it would be ugly.
Yes, it would. Anyway, apparently Bryce Young absolutely smoked the S2 test. CJ Stroud did not. And that is part of the reasoning behind CJ potentially dropping a little bit. Now, a little bit might be from 1 to 2. It might be 1 to 4. I don't think he's going any further than that.
Well, now he might, since he dissed the Mannings.
So that is the part that's interesting, because Lonzo said that during the break, and he said so with just a little contempt in his voice when he did so. Just a little contempt in his voice.
First family of football.
Correct. Absolute royalty, ladies and gentlemen.
Apparently, you can't ghost those guys.
And I
fine, upstanding people they are.
I want to make it abundantly clear here that the story is not that CJ ghosted the Mannings. The story is that the Manning Academy is a very elite invite-only quarterback camp run by the Mannings.
You will almost call it a 1%er type thing.
Sure, if you're talking about the 1% of best quarterbacks at the collegiate football level, correct.
True.
It is hosted by the Mannings. They have multiple NFL quarterbacks who show up and participate as coaches and instructors. They invite only elite caliber quarterback talent to attend and participate. So it is not so much that CJ ghosted Eli.
Allegedly.
The story is CJ was invited to this very elite camp, accepted it, and they just didn't show up. And it shows a couple of things, right? If you get the opportunity to go get coached by a definite Hall of Famer and a maybe Hall of Famer, if you get the invite to go be coached up by multiple current NFL quarterbacks, and if you get the opportunity to go to this elite level event, and then you just don't show up, you don't have to like this, but it certainly feels as if you don't really take advantage of opportunities to get better. Because that is one. That absolutely is one of the biggest ones you can be invited to.
In CJ's defense, he has said that he believes he's the best quarterback, the best player in football the last 2 years in college football. So if you are the best player in college football the last 2 years, what do you need improvement in? I'm sure that's what people are pointing out.
I mean, they are welcome to point out whatever they want to point out. No matter how good I think I am, and for the record, I think I'm pretty good. If I got an opportunity to go sit and listen to, let's say, I don't know, McAfee give me some one-on-one instructions on how he built his empire out of dirt, I don't care how good I think I am. I'm showing up to that, right? If I need to take time away from work, if I need to use some vacation days to do it, so be it. CJ not doing that could be viewed as an indictment.
Allegedly. And it also comes back to this, whether he did or didn't do this, the fact that this is brought out right now, around a week before the draft, because it's been out for a couple of days, to whose advantage is this to bring this out? What team is trying to get CJ Stroud to drop so they can go, yeah, we know that, this happened with the Manning thing, but we've talked to CJ about it and we think he's good people, so we're going to draft him. What team will want CJ to drop to the point where they could take him?
Indianapolis at 4. If they're working on the belief that, as again, the reports are coming in right now, Houston only wants Bryce. They are open to trading out of number 2. If somebody trades up to number 2, they are likely doing it to take CJ Stroud. Unless there are folks who think Anthony Richardson is in a better spot. But I would also like to point that
because there's no way that he would ghost the Mannings. I actually think he was at the Manning camp.
Correct.
I seem to remember seeing a picture.
Correct.
Like suddenly that showed up that he was there, and then a little bit later, the CJ Stroud stuff came out.
So again, let me make this very, very clear. This is not about the Mannings. It is not that he hurt Peyton's feels. This is about the fact that is a respected, definite opportunity to get coached up and get better. And if you accepted the invite and didn't show, it shows that you had a great opportunity to get better and you decided not to take it. And that is an indictment to some people.
Well, the Mannings could clear this up. They could come out and say whether it's true or not.
Sure. Or they could just mind their business.
But let's say if Peyton kind of wanted, had some ties and kind of played at a certain place for a very long period of time and kind of wanted a quarterback to drop to that. I'm just, Indianapolis, maybe you don't come out and say one way or the other. He may still have some loyalty there, and that would work to Indianapolis's advantage.
And again,
by not saying anything.
I mean, maybe I'm not gonna dive down the conspiracy theory road.
Why not? This is all that's all this is. This is speculation. This is one guy saying this happened and others saying it didn't. And
I don't see anybody saying he didn't ghost the Manning Academy.
Right. The people to come out and say it for sure, to say whether it happened or not, is the Manning Academy. And Peyton has a chance for the best advantage of this being out because CJ could drop to Indianapolis if he still has ties to Indianapolis. I'm just saying.
I know you're just saying.
And I seriously believe that that's a possibility.
Again, I'm not saying it's not a possibility. I will start by saying
this is all chess, dude. We know that at this time, and people dropping 1 to 2 spots can help another team out. And if you can help them out just by being quiet, then be quiet.
Again, not saying you're wrong. It is by definition a conspiracy theory. That does not mean it's wrong, right? I don't know. I'm curious as to what actually happened with the Manning Academy. Just like Pepe could come out and tell us what went down. You know who else could? CJ. CJ could come out today in the media and go, hey, look, I got the invitation. My mama got sick that weekend. I had to go take care of her and Papa, so I couldn't make it down there. I'm sorry that I didn't do a good enough job with alerting them. I mean, whatever. He could clear this up too.
Unless, like you believe, and I still don't believe it, but unless you believe that he already knows that Bryce Young's going number 1 and he does not want to go to Houston.
Which is a strong
possibility. And if you don't want to go to Houston, you don't come out and say anything. And you hope you drop past Houston.
Sure.
Because you're not going to drop that much further. The furthest you fall is 4.
I agree with that. I agree. Well, I don't agree with that. Okay. I could see him dropping as far as 7, 8, right? Now, that would entail his S2 test being a failure. And again, as Rashad said, I'm not going to jump heavy on the S2 train because I don't know anything about it. As Rashad said, this is the first year I've actually heard about S2 test. I don't know anything about them other than what I literally just read a moment ago on their website.
You know, the first I've heard of it was right here on the show about
20 minutes ago.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So I'm not trying to jump on the S2 train either, but if CJ did indeed bomb that thing, as is the report, and he did ghost the Manning Academy with no justification, as is the report, then I could see CJ taking a couple back seats to a guy like AR because, as we have mentioned a number of times, the ceiling for Anthony Richardson physically is higher than the ceiling for CJ Stroud. I believe that. A lot of scouts and analysts believe that as well. So I could see CJ dropping back to 7, 8 in a shocker. I'm not banking on it. I'm not putting money on it. I'm just saying I could see it happen. What I'm interested in is what you brought up during the break, Zoe, which is why now, right? Why now? What is the reason that all of this information, which would have been, has been theoretically publicly available for the better part of since the draft talk started, why is it getting dropped 8 days before the draft begins? There is something happening here. And if we can, again, you won't be able to.
This is not like a picture of a gas mask, you know? It's
God, what a story that
was. It's not like that, okay? This is kind of, in the scheme of things, not that big of a deal, but it could cost him a couple spots. And you strategically place that either to hurt someone or because you want to help somebody else.
Maybe. Again, I don't think we can know up until we find out where all this came from. Now, it's very easy for a source to get lost in the fold, right? Like it could be some beat writer in Columbus, Ohio. It could be Bill Polian.
Actually, I think it was Brady Quinn.
Well, there's a story up on Brady Quinn right now, and I actually have that in my show prep to bring to the table here. But Brady Quinn said in an article that I found on Yahoo that initially came from the Columbus Dispatch that there are concerns. He was on the Pick Six podcast, and the former Notre Dame signal caller turned Fox Sports college football analyst said he still thinks Stroud will go number 2, but he said that some of the things that are concerning him are the Manning Passing Academy and ghosting that. In fact, Quinn said, quote, "The Manning Passing Academy, I've been told that he committed to it the night before, just kind of ghosted them, didn't show up. That's football royalty. And when you do that, that's going to set off some alarms for people like, hey, man, that's not how you conduct yourself, especially around the Manning family or just in general if you're going to be a franchise quarterback." Quinn went on to say that Stroud's level of play waned when he was under pressure, suffering a much more dramatic drop-off over the course of his college career than other quarterbacks he's seen. But he did go on to point out that C.J. Stroud had a phenomenal game in the college football playoff semifinal. He did point out, as I have said a number of times, that, quote, some teams believe that C.J. Stroud was carried by talent around him as much as he carried that talent. Quinn said, quote, "A lot of quarterbacks have put up good numbers in Ryan Day's system. Great offensive line that's going to have one tackle, maybe both drafted in the first round, 3 of his offensive linemen drafted. There's a lot of thought that he played with a lot of talent, and maybe that played a role in it as well." He went on to say, quote, "He's the most accurate quarterback in this draft class. He showcased his athleticism and ability. Anytime I've been around the kid, he's been an upstanding young man who's grown and matured into a leader I think NFL teams are looking for," end quote.
So he did all the bad stuff, and then he finished it with praise.
Yeah, that's what Brady Quinn said.
Yeah, okay.
He said that he has grown, he has matured. Like I said, I don't know. The Manning Academy thing is a thing that's traditionally open to underclassmen, to freshmen, to high school graduates, etc. It's something that would have happened for him like a hot minute ago, right? I don't think you can judge a dude and what he is now based on what happened to him 4 or 3 years ago. And I even about grown-ass men, right? If I find out something you did bad 3-4 years ago, I'm probably going to give you the benefit of the doubt until you prove to me that you haven't grown from that experience.
So wait, this wasn't recent?
No, he would have been invited to the Manning Academy a couple of years ago.
Wow. See, that makes it even more so the fact that it's being brought up now. I thought it was fairly recent, and that's why it's being brought up. But if it's been a couple years,
let me phrase that. Unless he was asked to show up as like a mentor.
Yeah, because I thought that's what it was, that he was supposed to show up to do that.
I just found out about this quite literally last night.
Yeah, like we all did.
Yeah.
It's only been out there for a couple days.
Yeah. I just found out about this last night. So I'm going to be real with you. I don't even know all the details at this point, right? I just find it interesting that, like we said, all this drops 7 days before the, so far, biggest night in this young man's life. Let's take a break. When we come back here in just a minute, got a few more things that I want to get into on the radio broadcast. We got some NBA, some NHL. South Carolina picks up yet another top-tier commitment in the state of South Carolina. The top 4 recruits in the Palmetto State are now Gamecocks. 5 of the top 7 are now Gamecocks. What is Shane doing? How's this working out for him? We'll address that and more on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Apparently, SpaceX sent up a rocket this morning that blowed up. Oh, dang it. See, I want to be able to talk to you about things like
That's fine. That's fine.
But now I can't.
But because of the rules of the game, we can't talk about it because obviously you already know about it because you're talking about it. These are rules that you put forth. I'm just trying to follow them.
And, you know, one of my favorite shows.
It takes a really
Guess we'll never know what his favorite show was.
The run line on the road. That is the Atlanta Braves this year. As an away team, the Braves are covering the run line, usually 1.5 runs this season, to the tune of 80%. Conversely, the team has yet to cover a single time at home on the run line. That is an incredible stat and means that you can win twice, getting them to cover on the road and saving them at home. I'm Krista Crick. That's you.
For the ones finding new ways to ensure the job always gets done. For the ones wearing many hats. For the ones who are hands-on, even from far away. And the ones keeping business moving forward. We are Broooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooo
exploded, and this guy in the live YouTube chat said, "Well, guess you can't have much more separation than that."
That's a good point.
All right, grabbing a drink. Be right back, guys.
There's all kinds of ways to learn.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Podcasts or games or videos. You can even join live classes with a language teacher.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
Babbel.
Babbel. Babbel. Évidemment. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com. Babbel.com.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles, with an auto warranty about to expire, or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to the decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost, month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-758-7980 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-758-7980. That's 800-758-7980. What do you have to lose? Call 800-758-7980. Again, 800-758-7980.
This is Free for This Little Leg, a podcast about falling in love with music. I started a nonprofit music school about 20 years ago called the Silver Lake Conservatory of Music. The reason that I started doing this podcast was music education. I'll be speaking with Rick Rubin.
Why are we assuming that the teams didn't already know about this? So from what I understand, not every team subscribes to the S2 test results. I don't know if it's because it's...
You talk about the man thing.
I'm not saying they didn't. I'm just saying it wasn't... It obviously wasn't public enough to be discussed until very recently.
Until it was conveniently dropped by Brady Quinn.
Brady Quinn, of all people.
Yeah. I don't get it, Brandon.
Happy 420, bro. I totally forgot about that. Forgot about
Which
it.
kind of makes sense, I suppose. Yeah.
Dude. Bro. Max Scherzer is a pitcher for the New York Metropolitans. And yesterday, the Metropolitans had themselves a little baseball game taking on the Dodgers. Max Scherzer is one of the best pitchers in like Major League Baseball as a whole. He's very talented. He's also a guy that's taken some flack over the years for maybe occasionally, just every now and then, giving himself a bit of a playing advantage. Well,
you mean he cheats?
I'm not saying he cheats. I'm just saying there are some people out there who believe that maybe Scherzer occasionally test the boundaries of the rules. Unfortunately for Max Scherzer, yesterday, some of those people were Major League Baseball umpires. Grab me, if you don't mind, please. Great one. Clip 8A, please and thank you. This is from the game yesterday when Max Scherzer was asked ever so politely by the boys in the light blue shirts to hit the showers. So Scherzer got the bounce. Early in the game, he got checked for the sticky substance. They said that his hands were overly sticky. He was asked to wash them. He did. He came back out. He used some more rosin. He said the rosin, the sweat, and the alcohol from the hand washing did it. Then he got asked to change his glove because at that point, the substance had transferred to the glove. He changed his glove. He came back out. They checked him not once, but twice more. Both times, they found his hands to be super sticky. And after like the fourth time that they found his hands to be too sticky, Max Scherzer was ejected from the baseball game.
How sticky is too sticky? I mean, how do you know? Okay, it's okay. This is the normal amount of sticky in these atmospheric conditions.
And that's the fun part of this conversation. It's a subjective call by the umpires. Baseball has effectively said you can't use sticky stuff, but we also understand that between sweat, water, and the rosin off the rosin bag, it is going to create, that's the point of the rosin, right? It's to dry your hand off and give you some tack to grip the baseball. It is a subjective call. And Max Scherzer himself, clip 8B, in the press conference after the game, decided to talk a little bit about that. Here's Scherzer's interpretation of what happened. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the conversation. Scherzer goes, all right, hold up, dude. Hang on. You asked me to wash my hands. I did. You asked me to wash them a second time. I did. You asked me to change my glove. I did. I came back out knowing I was going to be checked again. So why would I have done anything knowing I'm going to get checked? I got checked again, and then I failed to check. Dan the Superfan Man said, quote, or do the same thing that got you questions in the first place. Actually, he changed it to Dan the Baseball Man for this. I respect that. But then I found this. Scherzer gets bounced less than 2 days after he was on a podcast called Foul Territory. This is going to be clip number 8. Less than 2 days after going on a podcast called Foul Territory. And they asked him about this process. Now, that's the right call. Max Scherzer's not only a pitcher, but he's a pitcher that's been accused throughout his career of using extra sticky stuff. This decision by baseball, not just to ban the sticky stuff, but to be checking for it repeatedly, should theoretically impact Max Scherzer more than anybody else. Scherzer was on the Foul Territory podcast less than 48 hours before this happened. Here's what he said on that pod. "48 hours before Max Scherzer got bounced from the game, he was on the Foul Territory podcast in which he was criticizing the process. Now, he did give the umpires credit there, right? He's like, hey, they've been put in a tough spot. They're asked to subjectively decide when guys are using too much sticky stuff and when they're not. They're asked to make a judgment call. It's tough to do." But then he did question the process, right? He's like, you shouldn't be checking us on the field. Take it to the locker room, explain to us what's happening, what we're looking for, and why, yada, 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 basically criticizing the way that baseball put this whole thing together. And if you've followed baseball for any length of time, you know that baseball, more than any other organization, sans maybe NFL ownership, they don't like being criticized. They don't like their processes being questioned, specifically by those who are, subject to that process. They aren't big fans of that. So I do find it interesting that we are 20-ish games into the season at this point, and 20-ish games into the season, Scherzer says something about it on a pod, and less than 48 hours later, he's tossed 4.5 innings deep into his own or into his very next start. It's the timing of that is very coincidental to me.
Yeah, of course it's coincidental.
That he had the stones to question MLB publicly on this pod, and his very next start, he gets ripped off the bump 4.5 in. It's very interesting. Now, I ordinarily, Lonzo, have a rule about rules. And that rule about rules is you need to be able to quantify a penalty, right? Like if you're going to penalize a team for doing something, you need to be able to quantify or qualify why it's a penalty. You need to be able to circle, this is why, right? You may not call every hold in the NFL, but we know what constitutes a hold, right? You may not be able to really mark down exactly what you mean, but we know what a pass interference against the offense and the defense is in the NFL. When you penalize something, when you make something a foul, you need to be able to explain why, how it could be avoided, etc. But as Lonzo asked me at the beginning of this segment, it's going to be kind of difficult to quantify how sticky is too sticky, right? How sticky can the sticky be before it's too sticky? Because there's going to be some sticky. Sweat and rosin combines, for those of you that have never pitched before, when you toss the old rosin bag, if you've ever watched a baseball movie, you know there's always that dramatic scene. The pitcher gets out to the hill and he picks up that white bag and he tosses it, and the comes out of the side before he takes the dramatic over-the-shoulder look, and the camera swings around him to show the stadium's full for his first or last start. That little bag is the rosin. And when that rosin powder comes out of that bag and you're sweaty, the point of it is to dry that sweat up, but it creates this kind of film, right? It's like dirt. It's like dirt. If you're real sweaty and you fall in the dirt and you get up, you know how the dirt and the sweat kind of make that film on your hand? That's basically what it is. Now, the umpires, since Scherzer, have fired back. The umpires, since that press conference yesterday, are contradicting Max Scherzer. They put out a statement per the LA Times that said, quote, "The entire hand was stickier than anything we'd inspected before and was worse than what we felt in the second inning when we told him to wash his hands. It continued to be an ongoing situation, and the level of stickiness, it was just too much," end quote. So, look, I don't have a problem with the ejection of a guy who gets caught cheating. No problem with that. It's part of the game, right? Where I find an issue is in this spot where you ask umpires to make a judgment call. You got Max Scherzer, who is quoted as saying to Phil Cousy, the umpire who ejected him, quote, "I swear on my kid's life, I'm not using anything else. This is sweat and rosin, end quote. This is one of those times, I know a lot of you subscribe to the theory of if you don't have a solution, don't complain about the problem. I disagree with that. I absolutely think you should complain about a problem even without a solution, because the only way anybody can come up with a solution is knowing that there's a problem. There's a problem here. One of the best pitchers in baseball just got bounced from a game involving a team in one of the, if not the most competitive divisions in baseball. And the reason why was a subjective call from an umpire. And all we can do is take the umpire at his word, right? But it also comes less than 48 hours after that same player went on a very popular baseball podcast and complains about this exact rule. As I've said a number of times, I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, but the timing is certainly interesting. It is interesting that Scherzer said what he said. His very next start gets bounced, and the umpires have no defense better than, yeah, but like his hand was really sticky, man. It's like not like kind of sticky, it was like really sticky. The umpire said that the fingers they used to check his hand remained sticky from his hand for multiple innings after the check. And the thing is, we can't verify that, right?
So what if the umpire said, well, the commissioner called and said, make an example out of him?
Again, I don't think it's a conspiracy theory anymore. I'm not saying Rob Manfred called Phil Cousy and said, hey, Scherzer really peeved me. He really got my goat the other day. So I kind of need to send a message to old Maxie. I need you to let Max Scherzer know we don't appreciate that podcast appearance. But now we're getting into some mafia underground theories that, if it ever came to light, would be kind of a big problem for baseball. What if the umpire himself just said, you know what, screw that guy. My job is already hard enough. I'm already in the news enough because people don't like me or anyone who does my job. So I got a major problem with this. And I'm going to show Scherzer what's what. I can't prove that's not what happened either. All we can go on is the word of the umpire versus the word of Max Scherzer, neither of which do I have a reason to trust them more than the other. The Umpires Association continues to allow Angel Hernandez to work. Joe West, well, he's retired now, but they let him work well past when he should have been. So I'm not big fans of their decision-making process. On the flip side, Max Scherzer's a guy who has been accused by other players of doing this for a very long time. I don't have a reason to trust him either. The point is, baseball's got an issue here, and they better figure out how to fix it. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up hour number 2. I'm Rob Brown. That's the great one, Lonzo. You're listening to The Rob Brown Show. You are listening to the Fan Upstate. Why did Rob just reference Peyton Manning like Taylor Swift? I've called him Pepe for years. That's my guy. That's football royalty. As Lonzo has pointed out, you don't question or insult the royal family of football, ladies and gentlemen. You just don't do it. All right, guys, give me 20 seconds. I'll be right back. Wrapping up our numero dos of the Rob Brown Show here on the Fan Upstate. Coming up in the next hour, Fight Club with Lonzo. We'll talk boxing, MMA, and professional wrestling with the great one. June 2nd. I want you to circle it on the calendar, ladies and gentlemen. And if you don't have plans, allow me to help you make some. That's a Friday night. And that Friday night, June 2nd, Charlotte, North Carolina will host a CONCACAF Gold Cup Round 1 match. And that match, ladies and gentlemen, will feature the United States men's national team. The USMNT will make their debut in the Gold Cup and their Charlotte debut on the evening of June 2nd. Now, I told you a couple of weeks ago when the Bank of America Stadium got selected as one of the sites for the CONCACAF Gold Cup, that was pretty exciting for me because Charlotte was selected as a host venue over some other places that have kind of become known as soccer cities in America. Portland, Oregon, Austin, Texas, amongst others. These are all places with a soccer background, a foundation. Now, when you pick places to play matches like the Gold Cup produces, you do it for one of two reasons. Either you do it because you know those stadiums are going to be filled up no matter what two CONCACAF sides you draw to play there, or you do it because you believe that place has the potential to end up on the map. That place has the potential to show out on national television, on international television, and have people look at it and go, damn, that's a soccer city, right? That's a good crowd. So the fact that Charlotte got selected over Portland, over Austin, amongst other cities, does two things. Number one, it shows me that Carolina, and when I say Carolina, I mean the Carolinas, North and South, are rapidly gaining attention as a soccer community, right? Now, that bid was always going to be supported by David Tepper. Tepper, I think, for all of the criticism I have levied at him as the owner of the Panthers, I think has actually done a phenomenal job as the owner of Charlotte FC. I think he's done a phenomenal job as an MLS owner. He put together a far more talented team, far more credible, and far more competitive team in just a couple of years than he had any right to do as an expansion club. There's been some missteps. The problem with the managing situation in year one was UGLY. But I think overall he's done a pretty good job. And he was going to absolutely push BOA as a Gold Cup site. But even with a billionaire pushing a site as a Gold Cup site, CONCACAF is not going to select it as one if they don't believe that it's going to look good on TV. It's going to sell some tickets, etc. Then we got the draw of the USMNT coming to Charlotte. Charlotte, Bank of America, in a soccer setup, can host 70,000 plus. I hope it does. And I hope the upstate of South Carolina is very well represented within that number. But it is going to take one thing. And I had this conversation yesterday at the Reedy River Riot tailgate before the Greenville Triumph went out and got a 3-0 win over Fuego FC. U.S. Soccer has done a terrible job at getting tickets out there for fans. Tickets to some of the USMNT friendlies in even smaller stadiums like Orlando go for north of $100 a pop. I don't pay $100 to see a sporting event unless it's once in a lifetime, right? USMNT in Charlotte is probably not once in a lifetime. If we do a good job and we pack BOA and the atmosphere is exciting and there's a good red, white, and blue contingent in there, they'll be back. But if they sell those tickets for $50 a pop, there'll be 70,000 in that building because the Carolinas are soccer country now. Let's take a break, come back. Hour number 3, we'll talk some South Carolina recruiting. We'll talk Fight Club with the great one. We'll hit Twitter trending topics, and we'll call it a day on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
Milwaukee riding 25-3 to a 138-122 home win over the Heat, and Memphis fought off the Lakers 103-93. No big deal, though, says LA head coach Darvin Ham.
You know, obviously we were able to get game 1. Unfortunately, we didn't get game 2, but, you know, having a split nonetheless is a good trip. And so we just have to go home and defend our home court.
Jaren Jackson Jr. had 18 points, 9 boards, and 3 blocks for the Grizz. Jamal Murray scored 40 to lead the Nuggets into a 2-0 lead on the T-Wolves, 122-113 in Denver. Tonight's schedule includes Game 3 for the Kings and Warriors, with Sacramento up 2-0 and without Draymond Green playing for the Dubs. On playoff ice last night, the Panthers gave the Bruins just their 5th home loss of the season, 6-3, to even that series at 1. And the Oakland A's announcing a binding agreement to buy land near the Vegas Strip for a new stadium. They could move as soon as 2027. Price tag for the
I think if you're CJ Stroud and you could prove that Brady Quinn saying what he said cost you draft picks, could you sue him?
Yeah, that'd be millions of dollars of damages. You'd have to prove he was lying.
Right.
But yes, I mean, the difference in salary from pick 1 to pick 4 could be tens of millions of dollars.
Because Ryan Clark has a counter story saying that CJ Stroud never committed to the thing, and you know,
the case, he could absolutely have some discussion with
if it costs him.
Yeah.
Well, even if it doesn't.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post the job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Did you know that over 90% of male enhancement pills are virtually the same thing that's repackaged, redone over and over again? Why settle for the same old product when you can get something completely different? Something that takes male enhancement into the 21st century. Something that really works. Men, you need to try Noxitril, the explosive, all-natural male enhancement formula that will unlock your performance in the bedroom to a level you could only dream of. Try to imagine Viagra on steroids. Noxitril is so powerful, that's why it took years for it to finally become available to the public without a prescription. So call now and take advantage of our special Noxitril free bottle offer today. Oh yeah, we recommend that you use the Noxitril dose as directed. Think of your partner. We certainly don't want you to overperform in the bedroom.
Find out how to get a free bottle of Noxitril. Call 800-490-7856. That's 800-490-7856. Free bottles for a limited time, so call now. 800-490-7856. 800-490-7856.
Twin Peaks is on the clock. You're invited to our draft day kickoff, fueled by Rise Guys P1 Lager
at Twin Peaks in Greenville, Thursday, April 27th.
Sign up for prizes. Who's going number 1? It's the draft day kickoff party at Twin Peaks on Woodruff Road.
Golfers, the best upstate deal on golf is back and on sale now. The 2023
Oh, that hurt.
gets you a round of golf at 9 premier upstate courses, and it's still only $99. Grab your foursome and get your upstate golf cards now. Play courses including Rolling Green, Links with Tryon, the Club at Brookstone, the Rock Golf Club, and more. Order at theupstategolfcard.com. 9 rounds of golf for only $99. Upstategolfcard.com. Upstategolfcard.com.
Without the ones like you who work tirelessly to keep things running,
It is really evident when you send out Adam Cole, baby, how big of a gulf there is between the mic time of Jungle Boy and Darby versus Jericho and Adam Cole. And I like Jungle Boy and Darby, but just a gulf of difference between them.
Did you get to see the end of what happened?
Not of Cole and Jericho.
Oh, okay, because it's kind of important. It's all over the internet right now. If you want to just find the very end, because it will need to be addressed. In the next segment. I'm just saying, because it's a major thing.
Listen on your phone, download the Odyssey app and search The Fan Upstate.
There's a whole lot more to know about sound if you really want to go into the subject.
Your smart speaker. Say play 97 The Fan Upstate on your HD radio at WFBC HD3. Just one more time. And on your computer at
TheFanUpstate.com. WORD Spartanburg.
WFBC HD3, the official sports voice of the Upstate Fan.
Yes, I did, Stephen. Bless you.
Thank you.
You'll have to wait till Saturday.
Oh, la, la, la. The third, the final, the best, the money hour of the Rob Brown Show goes now, ladies and gentlemen. It is the fan. It is the third hour, right? Yeah, it's the third hour.
You forgot to take your anti-longo allergy pills.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so they're yes, we are at hour number 3
already
of a great show.
Yeah. Hey, you know what's going to be happening a week from right now?
The doors will open up at Twin Peaks, where we have already been there for 2 hours, and the masses will be allowed to come in to get some awesome food and to hang with us.
Correct. A week from today, at this very moment.
When I say masses, I didn't mean, a bunch of sturdy people. Although it could be. I mean,
ain't no wrong with that.
Yeah.
A week from today, at this exact moment, Stephanie and Tierra will be opening the doors to Twin Peaks over on Woodruff Road in Greenville, so that you, ladies and gentlemen, can come on by, hang out with us for the final hour of the show live, grab yourself some scratch food, grab yourself some 29-degree brewskis with the boys and the girls, and sit and talk a little football with us. We will be there. The show will be live from 9 to noon like normal. The doors will open at 11. You guys will be able to come in and have some drinks with us then. Then, at noon, Zoe and I will conclude our stellar radio broadcast. NFL draft heavy that day, obviously. We will finish our stellar broadcast at noon. And at that point, the Rise Guys will be there. Be Fat Boy and Nine and Matt Man and Paige and the rest of the gang from the Rise Guys morning show.
All right. We don't know everybody that's going to show up from the show except for Matt and Nine. We know they're going to be there for sure.
There. Listen, Fat Boy, he's in Team Sturdy, all right? And you're telling me that you have a doubt in your brain that we're going to have Twin Peaks food and 29-degree beers, including the Rise Guys P1 Lager on draft, available to all of us. And you think there's a chance he won't be there?
You may have something going on. I don't know. I know for sure the other two guys are going to be there for sure. But I'm not sure about. There was speculation about whether he would be allowed to be there or not. I don't know why. I didn't hear all the details. They were talking about it when I was in the restroom. The radio was on, and there may be some reason why he's not allowed to be there. It has nothing to do with this company or anything. I'm not quite sure.
Fair enough. At least two of the Rise Guys morning show cast will be there. Zoe and I will be there.
Why are they going to be there, though?
Rice Gas P1 Lager on draft 29 degrees at Twin Peaks.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So they're there for that.
Yeah.
And to meet all the people,
Well,
of course.
and obviously to get our opinion on the draft.
Well, they're going to hang with us because why wouldn't they want to?
Why wouldn't they want
Yeah.
to?
Yeah. I mean, we've had 9 on this program before.
Sure.
So
We'll do it. We need to get him back in here. Talk some wrestling. So anyway, come on by at 11 o'clock a week from today, Twin Peaks, Woodruff Road in Greenville. We'll be taking you up till the draft. They draft in which, by the way, the odds of Bryce Young going number 1 overall yesterday sat at about minus 1250. I decided on a whim to check during the break. They are now minus 2,000. The odds yesterday that CJ Stroud would be the number 1 overall pick yesterday were plus 600. Today, they are plus 800 for CJ Stroud to be the number 1 pick. Again, I'm not saying it's in the books that the Carolina Panthers will select Bryce Young number 1 overall.
yeah, but you are saying that because we put lunch on the line. So you're saying that you believe that's going to happen.
I do believe it's going to happen.
Yeah. So you are saying that.
I'm not saying I believe
You're
it's
not.
going to happen.
You're not guaranteeing it.
I'm not
but,
guaranteeing.
But you put some food on the line.
Correct.
Yeah.
The
Which
bet-
is more important than money. Food is more important.
Oh
than
yeah,
money.
buying somebody else's
Yeah,
lunch.
yeah.
A $20 lunch is more valuable than a $20 bill. Because if I can hand Lonzo a 20 and then just leave the room. But if Lonzo owes me lunch,
Yeah, because
you gotta sit there and watch.
You got to
me.
go to lunch with that person and realize that you have to pay for that
Yep.
their food. Yes, while they're looking at the menu and you're going, oh man, because we didn't put a money limit on the thing. We just did the straight up bet and that was it.
Correct. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I love some tacos though.
Okay,
So.
all right. So we're not heading over to Roost Chris or
No.
something like that. Okay,
No,
all right.
I ain't that kind of guy. The bet is that Bryce Young will be selected number 1 overall by the Carolina Panthers. If the Panthers trade out of that number 1 spot, it's a null and void bet. If they do not, and they pick anybody but Bryce Young, Zoe wins. If they do not, and they select Bryce Young, Rob wins. As I've maintained, I still think there is a slim, but not impossible chance that the Panthers elect to trade down. Maybe to number 2 with the Texans. The Texans are desperate for a franchise quarterback. But apparently their new head coach, D'Amico Ryans, is not wanting to roll the dice on CJ Stroud. They want Bryce, or they will wait for Caleb Williams out of USC a year from next Thursday. Carolina could very well trade down to number 2, take CJ Stroud, allow the Texans to have number 1 Bryce Young, and charge them a premium cost for the privilege. We'll see. I'm banking Bryce to Charlotte. That's where it stands. Remember, the Vegas odds are for the number 1 overall pick, not for the Panthers to make the number 1 overall pick, just that Bryce will be the number 1 pick. And I think with what we're seeing going on with Houston is not heavily shopping the number 2 overall pick if there's even a decent chance that Bryce Young will be available. And again, I don't think that we will know that Houston has traded the number 2 pick because I think it's a contingent trade, right? I think Houston will put a deal in place that says if Bryce Young is taken number 1 overall by the Panthers, then we will trade you the number 2 in return for X, Y, and Z. But if they do not select Bryce Young and he's available at number 2, then we're going to take Bryce and that number 2 pick stays with us. So we'll see. It's a long way off. It's a week away. But that means you've got a week to plan your day around coming to Twin Peaks. Woodruff Road in Greenville next Thursday. We'll be there 9 to noon. Doors open at 11. At noon, we go off the air. Zoe and myself and the Rise guys will be hanging out with you guys from noon to 3. Then Mark, Ryan, and Diesel take over. They will take you from 3 until 7 and coverage of the draft. At that point, the Fan Upstate will be carrying for you from 7 till 11 CBS Sports Radio national coverage of the draft, picks 1 through 31. Remember, the Dolphins forfeited their first round pick this year, so there are only 31 picks in the opening round of the National Football League draft. Let's get some more stuff in here. ESPN's Football Power Index is comprised of a bunch of dudes, dudettes, and computers running through their thoughts on what the 2023 college football season is going to look like. There are, great one, 3 teams in college football that the ESPN FPI says has double-digit odds to win the national championship this year. Let's play the Rob Brown Show Home Edition. Pencils up. Can you name me the 3 teams in college football that the ESPN FPI says has a double-digit percentage chance to win the Natty next year? Want to take a crack at it, Zoe? On Thursday.
Oh,
man.
Gosh.
Rough.
I was doing so good. I'm going to go with The Ohio State University.
That is one.
Georgia.
That is one.
And Alabama.
That is it. 3 for 3 goes the great one. The Buckeyes, according to the ESPN College Football Power Index, have a greater than 1 in 3 chance to win the Natty. The Buckeyes, according to the FPI, have a 36.7% chance of winning the Natty.
Isn't that kind of weird with a new quarterback that they're getting that kind of love?
100% it is. Now, Georgia also has a new quarterback. Alabama has a new quarterback. LSU has a new quarterback. Texas has a quarterback controversy on its hands.
Is it though? It's just because the royal family's being dissed? Is that why?
No, it's because of the transfer portal. We'll come to that in a minute. The Buckeyes, according to the FBI, have a 36.7% chance to win the Natty. The Crimson Tide have a 20.4% chance to win it. 1 in 5. And the Georgia Bulldogs have a 19.1% chance to win it. So where's everybody else, you might ask? Well, sitting in 4th in terms of the win the national championship percentage are the LSU Tiger Men's. Scratch that. Sorry, the Texas Longhorns. The Longhorns, according to the ESPN FPI, have a 5.7% chance to win the Natty. LSU right behind them at 4.1. Behind them, the Michigan Wolverines, 3.9% chance to win the Natty. And then you find the Clemson Tigers, according to the ESPN FPI, a 2.8% chance to win the Natty. They are a 1/10 of a percentage point better than the Trojans of USC at 2.7, then Notre Dame at 1.6, Oklahoma at 1, Penn State at 1, and Florida State at 0.3.
Wow, Clemson fans, do you feel disrespected? Or do you think that's about where it needs to be? I'm shocked they're as high as they are.
Really?
Yes. I think maybe drop a couple more slots. I mean, they deserve to be in top 10. But if a team is on the decline, which it looks like it might be by the kind of not love that they're getting.
Not love.
Yes. I can't say it's hate, but it's whatever not love is, they're not getting love.
Dude, not love. I'm honestly, I think that's about where I'd think it would go. That's honestly about where I think I would put it.
They haven't played bad. They've had chances the last couple of years of a couple games go different ways to be right there like they were, 3 or 4 years ago. And they have a returning quarterback who they're really high on. Played pretty well the last couple games. They always have a decent defense. I'm a little shocked that they're not ranked higher, especially with some of those other teams that we just talked about having brand new quarterbacks.
That's fair. It's fair.
Are you angry, Clemson fans?
I am a little curious to what the reaction is here, right? You're bringing in a guy in Cade Klubnik that so many of y'all think is that dude, right? Think is that dude. You have got Will Shipley, who I honestly believe is the most unappreciated football player in college football. I think Will Shipley deserves to be discussed at length everywhere. He's that good. Phil Maffa is very good. Dominique Quadzilla is very good. By the way, interesting story going on around he and a couple of other players. Clemson has 7 seniors who have decided to return and take advantage of their COVID eligibility year. They are going to be over on permitted scholarships this year, which means there is a chance, unless some more guys transfer out or decide not to play, there is a chance that Clemson might have to pull some scholarships. And according to Dabo, Quadzilla is one of the guys that might get that scholarship yanked. We'll talk about that at another point in time. But 3-headed monster at running back, hopefully improved and more importantly, healthy at the wide receiver position. Defensively, absolutely going to argue Clemson dropped off on paper on defense. Still don't think they should be bad. They underperformed dramatically defensively last year. I think they've got to be better this year. Less talent on paper, but a year to correct the mistakes from last year. New offensive coordinator, who we hope is going to open up the offense, unlock it a little bit. We'll find out. My gut reaction was, that's about right to me, right? Do I think Clemson is ready to be mentioned in the same breath as Ohio State, Alabama, and Georgia? No. I think you've fallen a tier since the glory days of TL16, of Sunshine. Do I think Clemson should be mentioned in the same breath as Texas? Yes. And I don't understand why they're not. Should they be mentioned in the same breath as LSU? Yeah, I think so. I think I'd put them on the same page. Michigan's interesting because on one hand, Michigan was in the playoff last year. On the other hand, Michigan needed I wouldn't say massive upset, but a pretty decent upset of Ohio State to get there. And they did it. But I think Michigan falls off a little bit as well.
Well, with Clemson, are the powers that be who are picking these teams, do they subscribe to your theory that the ACC is going to be stronger this year? And is that why Clemson's down a little bit?
I mean, Clemson is our first ACC team. You get Florida State in there next. Florida State is actually the only 2 ACC teams that received even a 1/10 of a percentage point chance at winning a natty.
Okay, so never mind.
Are Clemson and FSU. Out of the Big Ten, you have Ohio State, you have Michigan, you have Penn State. Out of the SEC, you have Alabama, you have Georgia, you have LSU, you have Tennessee with a 0.2% chance, and that's it. Wisconsin got a 0.1% chance as well. Out of the Pac-12, you've got USC, you've got Utah, you've got Oregon, and that's the list. Out of the Big 12, you've got Texas, you've got Oklahoma, you've got TCU.
Brandon brings up a good point on the stream, by the way. Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter. Check us out. We're live every day, Monday through Friday. This is the last year for the 14 playoff. So it will make this a whole lot less of a problem for teams that are ranked below 4, for sure.
Without a doubt. And as I've mentioned a couple of times, good. I'm here for it. Right?
I can't wait.
I think it's going to be more fun for us. It's going to be harder for teams to win a natty, but still the likelihood that you get the best team out of 12.
If you're good enough to do it, just don't have a bad day
Right.
and you're going to do it.
So my question is, Clemson, do you believe you are overrated or underrated? First text is in. Says, fan, upstate Clemson fan here. I would not rate us that high. Second text, Clemson fans aren't angry, but we are cautiously concerned. Offensive recruiting has slipped. It starts at the top. Dabo gets paid way too much to let us slip this much. This is a huge year for the program. That is from William. William, appreciate that text. Joey B on the live stream says, quote, it's a no excuses season for Cade and the offense. We brought in the best offensive coordinator in the country. So if it doesn't click this season, it'll be 100% on the talent and by proxy, the coaches who recruited them. If you look at the top 15 returning quarterbacks in the country per Sports Illustrated, 4 of them are on Clemson's schedule. I believe, Joey B., if you take that to the top 20 returning quarterbacks, Clemson has 5 of them on the schedule. It is not going to be easy, like, for any team. As I mentioned to Zoe, he disagrees with me. That's fine. We'll have this conversation again when we get closer to football kickoff. I do think the ACC is going to be better this year. I think North Carolina is up. I think Florida State is up. That is what the reward for that is, being the only other ACC team to be mentioned by the FPI.
You keep saying that, but how? I mean, what does that mean? They're going to be better. Does that mean that Clemson loses a couple games they shouldn't because the teams that they're playing are better?
I don't know that Florida State is a game that they should win this year.
Okay.
I think that's going to be a real good football game. 2 years ago at Clemson, it was a real good football game. Remember, that was the game that Clemson needed Shipley to put on a freaking cape and underoos to bail them out against Florida State 2 years ago. FSU's better than that this year. So we'll see. Dan, the Gamecock man. I like the Dan because it lets him do this. Says, I give Clemson 3 years for another natty. I don't pull for the Tigers normally, but I do think Dabo realizes what he needs to do. I am going to say he's going to argue to the contrary. I got a hard time believing Dabo's not feeling a little pressure right now, right? Like, I got to believe he's feeling a little bit of pressure. Not just from the standpoint of let's perform. Like, we've got to perform better. But he is losing in-state recruits to Shane Beamer. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. The top 4 recruits in the state all going to Carolina. 5 of the top 7 all going to Carolina. He is losing recruits to Shane Beamer, the guy who just beat him. And on top of that, Mike Norvell's Knowles have belief in them. They're going to be inside the AP's top 10 when the season starts, breathing down the neck of Dabo. And you guys as Clemson fans right now do not believe in this program the way that you did a couple of years ago. And Dabo's looking at the old stalwarts, Nick Saban. He's got Alabama as the second favorite team by the FPI to win a title. He's looking at up-and-comers, Kirby Smart. He's got them as the third favorite team. He's looking at Ryan Day, who is more established at Ohio State since anybody has been since Jim Tressel.
But on the hot seat.
Sure. I got to think Dabo's looking at it and feeling pressure in 3 directions. The ACC's getting better. The Knowles leading the charge. A. The fans, I don't think you guys are putting Dabo on the hot seat yet, but I do see Clemson fans kind of tapping their fingers on the desk, right? Like, you got to do something. We're kind of getting tired of this. We're slipping, as that texter just said. And third, he's watching all the other coaches amongst the pantheon of top-tier coaches right now continue to improve, and his team has not the last couple of years. So I find it interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Thursday, and you know what that means. Coming up next on the radio broadcast, Fight Club with Lonzo. We talk MMA, We talk boxing, we talk professional wrestling, and we talk it next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
See.
Live right here, guys. Stay right there. We will be right back.
Show, new time. Now 9 a.m. only on the Fan Upstate.
I just don't think he's good.
Welcome into the Fight Club, where we talk all things boxing, UFC, professional wrestling, Walmart, because some good fights happen there for sure. Since I've been clicking on some of those fights that we try to cover sometimes on the stream, they're just all popping up on me. So I have no idea how old some of these things are, but some of them are pretty good and some of them are very disturbing. Let us start somewhere about something that I have no idea, but because Rob brought it up about a boxing story and he didn't send it to me, and he's right, the Paul brothers are not involved, so I don't really care, but we probably should talk about it because, you know, his name's on the show and he wants to talk about it. So I just, you know.
It's your segment, buddy. It's Fight Club with Alonzo.
No, there's no name on there, but I got all my stuff, so I wanted to make sure we got your stuff in there because, you know, I like to share.
You're too kind. You're a giver.
So you don't have it there. You teased it, and you don't have it. So we'll just we'll move on to something else because that's how much more important that boxing story was than the Paul brothers.
The story was boxing is getting a new international organization, and primary goal number one is to save boxing in the Olympics, because boxing is on the cutting block to no longer be an Olympic sport.
Oh, boxing in the Olympics is awesome.
Which would be a shame. There is a new group to be called World Boxing. It is going to be a rival to the IBA, which has been suspended from organizing the sport at the Olympics, primarily due to their ties to Russian influence, which are kind of being, anything with Russian ties at the international level is kind of being frowned upon at this moment in time. The president of U.S. Boxing, Tyson Lee, is trying to orchestrate a movement. Right now, it is primarily Americans and Brits that are running this thing, but they are working on getting more international players involved with the effort to save boxing at an amateur level at the Olympics, which I would love to see. Listen, I'm not a big mat wrestling guy. I don't have anything against it. It just never sparked any intrigue in me for whatever reason.
Yeah, but Dan
cut from the
Savran,
Olympics was a damn shame.
Dan Savran and I are very big fans of
Correct.
that. So
It being cut from the Olympics was a damn shame and remains a damn shame. It is one of the mainstay sports of the game. So to see it gone sucks. As a fan of boxing, to see it cut from the Olympics is a bummer for me as well. Guys like Roy Jones cut their teeth, made their name at the Olympic level. So the fact that there is an organization that has money and power and influence behind it that is cutting itself into a new governing organization with the power to potentially save Olympic boxing, that to me is huge.
By the way, that is a big deal, and I hope they're able to be successful because I love Olympic boxing. Wish you could find a way to get wrestling back in there. All right, UFC, Dana White says that the John Jones-Stipe Miocic fight is going to happen. They're working on it happening. They're not. He hasn't said that it's signed yet, but it's going to happen at Madison Square Garden, and there have been hints that John Jones will retire after the match. I don't know if you've seen those things, but he's already disappeared once after he won the belt, and no one seemed to know where he was. And the rumor out there was he disappeared so he wouldn't have to drug test. We don't know. We don't know if that's why. I do know that I would hate, and it probably Floyd Mayweather haters probably feel the same way I do. I would hate to watch my entire time watching the UFC waiting for John Jones to lose and never see it happen. That would be a horrible thing. So I want to see this Stipe fight happen because I think Stipe really does have a good shot at it because he's built more like a light heavyweight. John Jones no longer is because he got some flab on there. It's not Daniel Cormier flab when he went up to heavyweight, but it's quite a bit. I believe this fight happens when it happens. I mean, we were just talking about boxing. The same thing with like Tyson Fury fight. I believe that this fight actually happens when it happens. The longer they wait, the bigger chance, I've said it before, the bigger chance John Jones is going to do something to screw up. And this fight needs to happen because I think a lot of people will buy this fight.
Well, I agree. So I agree with all of that, right? I agree that the longer you push it off, the more chance there is that John Jones does something stupid and gets himself kicked out again. The longer it goes on, the more likely it is that John Jones goes, hey, you know what? I'm going to walk out on top. I'll leave the belt in the middle of the ring and call it a day. I believe all of those things to be stone cold accurate, Lonzo. 100% I do. That being said, I also understand that the UFC is show business above all. And the emphasis is on business. The show part of it is what makes it business.
You're saying what's best for business.
I'm saying what's best for business, without a doubt, is for this fight to happen, right? This is the next fight at that level. This is the next fight for the second most arguably prestigious belt in the company. And if Dana wants to make scratch for the company, Jones v. Miocic is the only fight that needs to be arranged next. I'll tell you what leads me to believe that it happens is him dropping the MSG reference on it, right? Is him saying Madison Square Garden would be the site. Madison Square Garden is the mecca of fights in America, all right? It is Wembley in London. It is the mecca of fights in the States. And you don't just say Madison Square Garden. You got to have something there to point out that is the preferred venue for the fight. Leads me to believe that Dana knows how important this fight is. The UFC knows how important this fight is. Stipe wants the fight. Now it's just a matter of, is John Jones going to keep his nose clean and show up and put on a fight? And if he does, it'll probably be the first card I buy in a while.
Well,
I hope some good ones, by the way.
There, especially the last one was really good. I hope it happens. I can't wait. Before we get to some AEW, there is some WWE stuff. I don't know if we'll have time for it, but I want Rob to know this because I'm guessing he probably didn't know this. But Tony D'Angelo mentioned his uncle on NXT, and his uncle's name is Carmine.
Carmine. Hey, I'm just saying.
Okay, you got a couch pop from me when he said Carmine.
Wait, listen, it's not a joke, ladies and gentlemen. It's foreshadowing. It's not a spoiler. It's a promise when it comes from the Rob Brown Show.
All right, so let's get to AEW last night. There were some good things. There were some bad things. And, of course, Rob's going to disagree with me on some of this, probably. You talked earlier, I don't know if this was on the stream or on the air, I think it was on the stream, about some people getting more mic time than others. First of all, let's talk about the four pillars. That's just a bunch of crap. They're not the four pillars. I mean, the pillars are the elite in Jericho. Those are the pillars of that company. Without those guys, that company's not still there. Without them bringing in John Moxley, that company's probably not still there. Those guys are good. They really are. And good. I've complained about them needing to push their homegrown talent higher. But only one of those three deserves a shot at the championship. Only one of those three can carry it. And it's not Darby Allin. And it's not Jungle Boy. It is Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara has the kind of heat you need. He also has the kind of personality. I love Jungle Boy, but he's not as good on his own. And Darby Allin is starting to prove he shouldn't talk. I mean, because it's not easy to talk in front of people. Rob can do it and not have any nerves at all. You put me out in front of people and I might be a mess in like a minute, depending on the size of the crowd. Darby should not be talking. He should not. It was bad. It really was bad.
They basically, all right. So what I said was that between watching the promo that opened the show, I agree with you. The four pillars thing was, we need a reason to justify these guys being together.
Because AEW also has a problem. They have, without using the guys they've already had before, they don't have a legitimate guy to push to go up against MJF. And that's what they're trying to build on this. And I think the Sammy thing might actually work.
They need a reason to justify Darby, Sammy, and Jack to all kind of be up against each other. And I think there's a better way to push it, right? I think you could push it as the future, the 4 pillars of the future, the next gen, right? Like at the end of the day, the Jackson bros, the Elite and Omega, they're all 40 or close. Ambrose, 40 or close. Like all the guys that are the mainstays are all kind of approaching the spot where you kind of hit the downhill slide. And I say this with all the due respect that he's earned, but like we've seen a worse Chris Jericho the last couple of years than even when he first joined up with AEW. So I think you could justify it as these are the faces of the future. These are the pillars of the future, and they're fighting to determine who is going to be the guy that carries the next generation starting now. And you'd be fine, but whatever. That's a nitpick. What I will say is the only way to get better cutting promos is to cut promos, right? The only way to get better at anything is to do the thing. And
although there are some things you're just not going to be good at.
Sure. But again, the only way to, okay, let me rephrase that then. The only way to get to be the best that you can be at a thing is to do it and do it and do it and do it and do it.
Yes.
The best way to get good at something is to really suck at something out of
So
the
you're
gate.
talking about practice.
Correct. We talk about practice.
Practice. Not talking about the game. Talking about
Not
practice.
a game. We talking about practice. All I'm saying is if you want those guys to practice promos, the house shows are going to be wildly important to these guys, right? They're starting house rules. AEW is going to run house shows. Wildly important to give them the opportunity because even Sammy Guevara, when you make him the main guy and not the guy who plays off of everybody else, to see them cut theirs and then to listen to Jericho and Adam Cole, baby, get after it on the mic, there's an ocean of difference. There's an ocean of difference between the two. Darby and Jack tries to sound like the most intimidating guy on the planet, and he just doesn't without Lucha behind him. Darby tries to be the I'm crazy, I'll do anything guy, and that works for me as a character. I love the wrestler. Darby can't get through 2 or 3 sentences without screwing the pooch. And Sammy, I think, has relied so long on being a guy who's just got a punchable face, just relies on the heat of I make out with my hot wife in the middle of the ring, that it's like he never worked on actually saying things to justify, to gain more of that heat on himself. And it just comes across as a kid who's super green when it comes to having to carry his own. So to create a world in which those 3 guys are cutting promo where the end boss is MJF, any one of those 3 ends up having a showdown with MJF, they're going to get destroyed.
Unfortunately, it's probably going to be Darby, but I hope it's Sammy because out of the 3, that's the most entertaining, the angle that they're going with. Because in the end, Sammy screws over MJF and wins the belt.
Sure.
I'm probably okay with that. He doesn't keep it for very long. Limited time. Let us talk about Adam Cole Jericho. You mentioned Jericho has slipped a little bit. Jericho's my age. I'm impressed that he can do anything because getting out of the bed's a struggle for me. And Jericho's out there doing things that guys our age probably shouldn't be doing. And Adam Cole has always been good on the mic. So you're right. The confrontation between the 2 was very good. But what they ended up doing at the end was something AEW storyline wise, they're starting to set things up a little bit better, I think, which is good because that's where they need to grow the most is storyline, I believe. The wrestling's good, but they need to grow in storyline. Watching Adam Cole handcuffed to the rope while Britt Baker is being beat, and him saying, I'm sorry, Britt, yeah. The whole time, that was a good move.
And listen, we've seen that story before, right? We've seen it happen to H and Steph. We've seen it happen with Lita and Edge. Like, we've seen it with every on-screen couple. But you justified it with the outside, what do they call themselves? The
Outcasts.
The Outcast.
Yes.
You justified it with them coming in,
because they were
joining up with
hidden
JS
under
makes
the
sense.
ring the whole
Right.
time, which means Jericho orchestrated the
Correct.
whole thing. So yeah.
It's you're exactly right. It added a couple of, it was more than just like anytime something happens, my question is always why? Why is this person doing this? What's the point? What's the reason that they did this? And it can be as simple as I got paid to, or that person knocked a food tray out of my hand last week. And I mean, it can be a dumb reason, but like give us the reason. And then we kind of caught the reason there. And it makes sense to have that, as well as earn some nuclear heat for them beating the hell out of Britt Baker in her own hometown.
All right. One last thing, jump into WWE real quick. Brock and the Duster don't work for me. It's just him trying to be Sting. It just doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. No, it didn't. Everybody knows that when a cowboy walks in a black duster, that guy's a badass. You don't get to wear a duster unless you're a badass. That's just how it is. I loved it. I just love that him and Trish were wearing the same outfit as heels that night. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Your 40s are the best years of your career, brother. That doesn't work for me, brother. Joey B said, here's how you know only MJF is a pillar. If Jungle Boy Sammy or Darby left, it wouldn't be a game-changing loss.
Bidding war of 2024. It'll be here before you know it.
Long-term storytelling. Love that. Love that. The best part of that character for MJF is him selling it, that the only reason he's going to get in the bidding war of 24 is because of how good he is as a wrestler. That's great. That's great development.
Sports all year long. Download the Odyssey app, search the Fan Upstate, and listen anywhere on your phone. I'm Chuck Sanders with the Sports Flash.
Yeah, something like that. Something like that.
Well, it's unfortunate because it looks like he might actually be coming back.
Oh, he is.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, he's not getting that much.
Question is, did he learn his lesson?
No.
No. No chance. That's what you got.
I wish AEW would make a villain that looks like Vince McMahon's mustache. I mean, how could you not do that? You could have so much fun with that. I know it's acknowledging the competition, but you're not on that level yet. Make fun of McMahon. Give someone that mustache. Actually, I miss Dan Lambert. His promos were so good. Whether you like what he's saying or not, he just, you know.
I hated the character.
Yeah, it was just so good. Yeah. The other thing another thing I had on there is I don't believe Takeshita is really on the elite side. I think Takeshita ends up betraying them and being part of the Blackpool Combat Club. So do I. Look at Sean Spears suddenly showing back up.
Right.
Where's he been?
Boris from Bullwinkle. Man, Boris was Boris and Natasha. Boris and Natasha.
Yes. I am not going to use the ring light because they give me headaches. So I don't mind being in the basement. I'm a nerd, and supposedly that's where nerds are, in their mom's basement. Yeah, I mean, so, you know.
There is a ring light right in front of Lonzo he
Right,
could be using.
and it gives me headaches. And I would rather be in the dark than in pain.
Moose and Square.
At least I'm not in a little box. I mean, you know, there could be
He's the man in the box. Your hot water dreams.
If you ain't got hot water, you dream about it, though.
That's probably fair. Are you a long hot shower taker?
I have a max time. My tater tots are in for 15 minutes. In that 15 minutes, I go take my shower, get ready, come back, still have about 3 to 4 minutes to put in my 1/2 of an English muffin. So I guess
1/2 of an English.
yeah, because it's only 70 calories as opposed to 140 if you eat the entire thing. And I just need enough to soak up my 1 egg. And I basically eat the same breakfast every day, and I love it. So I think I take a shower between 8 and 10 minutes.
Okay.
I've been very regimented since I was a kid to get the maximum amount of sleep and get up and do everything I need to do.
I'm a definitive long taker of showers. I will wear my hot water heater out before I get out if I don't have anything else to do.
Time for abbreviated edition of Twitter trending topics. The first thing that's trending is National High Five Day.
You know that feeling when you connect on a real good high five?
Yeah.
Like it's got that crisp pop to it.
You have to stick the landing because
Yeah.
it's got that pop. If you don't stick the landing, though,
Yeah.
it takes away from the high five, though.
Tuesday, I was over at the Well for Swamp Rabbits Media Day because the ECHL Kelly Cup playoffs start tomorrow. And Terry, who is our game ops manager, when I'm working Bits games, she's the one that tells me where to go, what to do, whatever. She was walking by in the hallway when I was going down to the presser with Lordo, and we hit a high five that was, I mean, like you could see the shock waves coming. It was so good. And we both looked at each other, and she goes, "We can never high five again." And I was like, "You're right. That cannot be topped."
You know,
it was perfect.
I haven't put that kind of thought into it, but I do get it. I think my entire life, I mean, I'm 54 going on 55. I think I've maybe had 4 or 5 perfect high fives.
They're rare.
Yeah. And you recognize it when it happens.
Oh, it's a moment. I'm also going to tell you for the sake of celebrating National High Five Day, for those of you that have never heard the secret, you know what the secret is, right? For the best available high five. It's not always going to be perfect, but for an always consistently good high five, when you go in for the high five, look at the elbow. Look at the other person's elbow, and if you look at their elbow, you will never whiff a high five.
I think my best high fives are no looks. I
No,
think
they're not.
I think they have
Telling
been.
you they're not.
No, I think they have been because of the chemistry, the rapport that I have with the other person that I'm high-fiving with. It's not a stranger. It's someone who we've been through some things. So we know each other. Boom, it's up there. You don't even have to look at it.
I'm telling you, look at the elbow. Make everything better. We got time for one? No, we don't have time.
We do. Why not? BuzzFeed is trending.
BuzzFeed. No. Just no.
No, but you're right. That's why it's trending. It's going away.
Good.
I don't even know what it is.
Good.
I don't know if it's political. I don't know what it is.
All
but
BuzzFeed is a website that goes to like Reddit, compiles lists of and comments from the people, and then churns out articles to sell ads on. They contribute nothing to the world.
Well, according to Twitter, it's going away.
Good. Goodbye. Don't let the door hit you where the world splits you. Adios, amigo. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for us today. Tomorrow, the Friday edition of the show will be even better. So make sure you're here. Lot to get into, lot to talk about on the Friday edition of the Rob Brown Show right here on the Fan Upstate. Later, brother. My high five attempts look like that scene on Dumb and Dumber. I get it. The struggle's real, buddy.
Yeah, I still
It
haven't
is.
seen that movie, and it just doesn't interest me at all.
Only because people tell you it's amazing.
No, because it looks stupid. I
It is,
mean,
in the best
yeah,
kind of way.
I mean,
In the perfect kind of way.
stupid. Like, yeah, I know people like that. Why do I want to be reminded?
Yeah, yeah, bird, yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you guys are fantastic people. We will see you back here tomorrow. Don't forget to make your plans to join us a week from today.
Hey, look, we're having
at
trouble
Twin Peaks
streaming.
on Woodruff Road. Or what?
We're having trouble streaming to your destination.
Well, at least it just started now.
Yeah, now, and we're done.
Bye, everybody.